Hello, I'm MinBG, and welcome to the Dragonflight beta. Today I'm going to be taking another look at another profession, just to kind of give my quick overview of kind of how things look as they're leveling, what looks good, like what looks profitable, what are things that I would potentially craft. We'll take a good look at the specs in particular, and more importantly kind of discuss the specs that I would consider going for first, maybe what my plan is like as I first look at it, and just or things that I think could be potentially profitable, because as this channel we like to do, we like to make gold, and that is the primary focus and the primary thing that I care about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started today, I would just like to thank everybody for the support recently, and I'd like to say that if you enjoy this content, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know the type of content you want to see, and honestly just let me know your opinions, kind of what you see, what you're thinking. I just really enjoy the conversation. But on a personal note, YouTube was being weird. It had showed me over 500 and then under 500 subs, so on and so forth, but currently it shows me very, very close to 500. So if we can please get there so that I can get that community tab, so that I can stay better in touch with the people that are enjoying the content, I would just super appreciate it, because that's just step one into a long YouTube journey. And again, I'm here to make content for you. So if I'm not doing my job, if I'm not doing what I say I'm trying to do, then hey, let me know how I can fix that. So let's get after it. So today we are going to be doing Inscription. I went ahead and I just kind of bought some stuff from the vendor. I bought some of the I just went ahead and bought some of the different recipes and stuff just to have them on hand. As you know, with Inscription, you're primarily breaking down, you're milling, you're breaking down different herbs into things that are salvageable, that's breaking down into the different pigments. You turn those pigments into ink. I'm not going to really go into full detail on that, or like, let's say, like inspiration or skill or anything like that. Primarily, if you want a little bit more breakdown on what some of the stats mean, whether it's inspiration or resourcefulness or whatever, you can probably find that in the jewel crafting video. I'm going to try and just get to the point, but we all know that I don't have the ability to make a video that's not 30 minutes long, so let's see how I do today. So I went ahead and bought some of the pigments. I went ahead and bought some of this stuff already. You see that there's also the draconic vials used in like different inks. Now these draconic vials are interesting because not just are they purchasable from trade skill vendors, but they're also makeable by jewel crafters. So I'm wondering if the trade skill vendors can maybe only sells like the T1 and T2, and maybe T3 only comes from jewel crafting. I'd be interested to know that, things of that nature, but I just thought that was something I would share. And then like the iridescent water is just something that you can buy from a vendor. It's just water, right? It's just water that's used in the crafting of inks. So our first goal is just to take a quick look. We have this here, which is just milling. You can just say mill all, and it will select the one that you want to mill and go to town. You can see I'm getting a ton of blazing ink, and let's see, what is that? That is from the saxifrage or whatever the hell that is. You can see that I'm only getting blazing pigment is all I'm getting there. Let's try a different one. Let's try Writhe Bark. Writhe Bark, it looks like flourishing. You can see I did the T2 Writhe Bark, but I guess it is maybe a little bit more on average. That's Writhe Bark. Let's take a look at Bubble Poppy. Probably going to get Serene. Yep, there we go. Got Serene from Bubble Poppy. And isn't there one more? Oh yeah, the Hochenbloom. Hockenbloom. Yeah, Hockenbloom. That's probably how you say that. And that's where we get the shimmering. So, as you already saw here, you have the 4 different types. You have Serene, Shimmering, Blazing, as well as Flourishing. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, it looks like the milling I did got us up to 10 in Inscription, and then now it cannot gain any more levels. I'll state, as I've stated in every video, the most important thing you really want to do, especially if you want those spec points, is first craft bonus. You can select it here. Anything that you have not crafted before, you need to craft it at least once, and once it gets crafted, that first bonus is gone. But that first bonus that you get, that's what's getting you the Inscription knowledge. And this didn't show this before, I don't think. But you can now see that, hey, look, I crafted that first time craft. Not just you get 5 Artisan's Metal, which is a bind-on pickup thing that is definitely used a lot, but you also get the Inscription knowledge. And to me, the most important part is the Inscription knowledge, right? So I'm just gonna, pretend this is the start of the expansion, and I'm gonna make each of these one time. Well, I guess I'll skip that one because I don't feel like buying that. But regardless, that should be your focus. Make everything once, and then you're just focusing on skill levels. I'm gonna get to 25, and then we're gonna take a look at specializations. I'm going to quickly point out that in all 3 of these inks, the Blazing, the Flourishing, and the Serene, the Shimmering pigment is used in all 3 of them. The Shimmering is used in all 3 of them, and I don't recall which one gave it Shimmering. I wish this would say. I wish that, like, when you looked at this, like, it would just flat out tell you what gave Shimmering. Okay, that's what I thought. So it looks like the Hawkenbloom is the one that you're going to use the most of, just given that you'd need the most Shimmering. So that's where it seems like that's the only place you're going to get it, is for milling Hawkenbloom, for what I can tell, at least just initially. So anyway, just keep that in mind. As I'm leveling, one of the things I saw are these mystery cards. You have Faded Fortune card, you have Blazing, Flourishing, and Serene Fortune, even though it looks like they all make the same card. If you can see here, like, these are all the same card. So I'm gonna have to see what these do. So I've crafted a little bit of each of these, and I'm gonna craft like one more. There we go. And it did, they all made the same card. So let's go ahead and flip these over and see what happens. Let's see, you got a Faded Fortune card. So these are just things you can sell to the vendor. These might be interesting. 1 gold, 5 gold, 1 gold. Ooh, 50 gold. Guess I will just flip through these, and if I see one that's new, I will take a look at it. That's another 50 gold one. Oh, ooh, what's that? Faded Fortune card for 200. Don't look behind you. Okay. Let's just get through these fast. More things to kind of YOLO after. It'd be interesting to see how much gold you could or could not get out of doing that. That might keep some of the prices of inks and stuff at a certain spot, knowing that you can just flip them directly into these cards. Since none of these cards seem to be different, it'll literally come down to they cost the exact same other than 1 of each ink. So it's a matter of which ink is the cheapest to craft. Whatever ink that one is, that's the one that I would assume that you're gonna make the Faded Fortune card with. And then those are just vendor fodder, fun. I don't know if 200's the most you can get. If you can get 500,000, no idea. I don't really feel like sitting here and crafting hundreds of these to find out, but that's a cool thing. So I wonder if there's anything in the specializations for that. And we're going to check that out in a moment, because next is specializations. So before we actually take a look at the specializations, I got it up to 50. I got some more on things unlocked. And let's take a little bit better look at some of the things that you can create to kind of give you a better idea of like why you would want to choose a direction. I'm going to try to do this quick. So you have these different runes. These are used for different things. It looks like the Chilled rune is used a lot. We'll see here in a moment. You have a couple weapons you can make, both the Agility Staff, Intellect Staff, as well as Offhand. At least those are the ones I have initially. You have these runes, which are kind of cool. These runes, looks like this one give you haste for an hour. You apply it to your weapon, so that seems like the new sharpening stones or something. So I don't know if, I don't even know if like blacksmithing has that or not. Because there's one for haste, there's one for crit, and then there's one to like proc healing, additional healing. So those seem pretty nifty. You have profession equipment. That's is what it is. The stupid illusionary stuff. I don't like that kind of crap. Let's get down to the mysteries. Are those cards we already looked at? You have contracts. So these are huge because these are now they're not as important necessarily as they were in the most recent expansion in Shadowlands because you like are trying to get that rep. Now that reputation is more for cosmetic kind of things, which only if you really want to. So they're still probably going to be good because there's people that are going to still push to do it first or whatever the case may be, and there's still stuff that's worth unlocking. But the couple interesting facts about that is, so here's the contracts again. I think those are going to be very good, but they also have different qualities, which means I assume that like you would get more reputation for a T2 or T3 contract rather than like a T1. So that's something I find very, very interesting. People might pay really well for a T3 contract, sooner rather than later. So that's something that I would keep an eye on. You have the other one that I think potentially is huge is you have the Draconic Treaties on, whatever profession it is. This is what I believe you use to gain additional knowledge in that profession. So like once you get to a point and like you can't gain any more skill points, you're stuck at 70 or something. I believe this is kind of how you would do it, and I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it says right here once a week. I was pretty sure that you can only do this once a week. So theoretically, you're going to want to do it every single week. And since, as you read, it's bind on pickup. So how are you going to get this for enchanting or blacksmithing if you're not if you're not Inscription? Well, that's where those work orders come in. This is going to be huge for Inscription. Is those work orders and these people putting in work orders being like, yo, I need a tailoring treatise or whatever the hell, and they're going to put in a work order for this, and you can fill that and fill somebody else's work order. I'm assuming they're going to have to apply the metal, they're going to have to supply all the other stuff, but this one here, I think these are going to be huge. These are going to be absolutely huge because anybody who's pushing their professions are going to need these every single week, right? Other cool stuff that you can do with Inscription is you can do different things for the different drakes, like black hair, spine crest, red hair. There's different cosmetics you can unlock. I think that's pretty nifty. And if you also see that these are bind on pickup, so I believe somebody would have to, the way I understand this, mind you, is, I can't make any of them. If I can make one right now, maybe I would do that. But the way that I understand this is you would basically have to put in a work order for this to be able to like get it and use it. But again, they haven't shown us enough on work orders to really understand it. You can jump to conclusions, I guess, or make an assumption. Specifically because, like, what's the point in having this treatise on enchanting when most of the time when you're an inscriptionist, like, do Inscription, you don't do enchanting? So, like, it only makes sense that the way that people are going to get this is through the work orders, right? And I can only assume that this kind of stuff is the same way, even though these are bind on pickup stuff. Just like I assume that crafted gear, like the really high, mythic quality crafted gear, somebody should be able to put a work order in for that, even though it's like a bind on pickup. It will be bind on pickup. Once it's made, it's bound to the person who buys it, right? And that's the way I assume this kind of stuff works. So, just kind of throwing that out there. But, on quick glance, there's actually some kind of cool stuff for Inscription. Contracts, I think there's going to be, I don't know which, I would have to know exactly which each of these contracts, like what the reputation offers, to be like, oh yeah, a lot of people are going to go for this one, or oh yeah, a lot of people are going to go for that one, to make a judgment. So I couldn't necessarily tell you which one, but I think there's going to be a market specifically early for T3 contracts. So that's pretty cool. And then again, this is definitely going to be a weekly thing, like, for sure. And then I think it's just cool to have stuff that's like cosmetic that people can put in orders for. So anyway, off to specializations finally. So this is the time-consuming part, and I'm going to try to make it quick. We have Rune Mastery. This is improve at the art of inscription and fortify your ability to process resources economically, as well as improve the overall quality of your crafts. As a lot of these, it seems to be the generic one on first glance, to where all these points you're going to put in are mostly going to give, each point's going to give you skill, and then each of these, you know, there's sub, there's a little bit of, you know, inscription, yeah, skill. I read that wrong. I was reading inscription as if it was like that inspiration, but it's not. Yeah, this is basically just all skill in that main tab, and then you can get into perfect practice, which is resourcefulness. I think this is generic resourcefulness, so it would work on everything, just when crafting inscription goods. So just having a chance to save on the goods that you are using. You have infinite discovery, which is inspiration, right? This is your inspiration talent tree. You have plus skill into milling specifically. So if you want to be somebody who just mills maybe for money, well, this is the route you're going to go, because if we look, even milling, you're going to want to have high, oops, I'm having a whole bunch of errors, by the way. You're going to want to have high skill. The reason is because even milling, because of like the different pigments and stuff you can get, there's going to be like T1, T2, and T3 of a pigment. You're going to need high skill to get up to that T3 pigment, which is more than likely the thing that people are going to want. So even if you're just a straight up mill person, you're going to need skill primarily. So that's pretty cool. You can get more skill there, and then get a chance for multi-craft, which is nice. Multi-craft's probably going to be huge. Milling faster is huge. That kind of stuff. And then you have flawless inks. Improve at the crafting of various inks, specifically in inscription, gaining plus skill. And this is another one where you can have some inspiration and multi-craft, specifically on making inks. So these are very generic for both milling and crafting inks. This is generic for everything skill. Then you have inspiration, inspiration and resourcefulness. I mean, yeah, these are going to be darn near required for everybody. These ones right here, pretty big. Let's go into archiving. In archiving, specialize in cultivating and archiving various texts throughout Dragon Isles, such as missives, the treaties, and how to harness the unkept power of various trinkets, which I haven't seen trinkets yet, so maybe this is exactly where you pick that up at, which is something I wanted to touch on. There's no way this video is going to be short. So here is plus skill into this specialization, and this is for improve at the art of archiving various texts, gaining plus skill in this specialization. So I don't know what that covers. Maybe it just covers these or everything. I don't know. Learn to use optional regains to upgrade the item level on Dark Moon deck boxes. So when you put in points, how do you even do the Dark Moon deck boxes? I don't think I have that unlocked yet. I don't even have Dark Moon deck boxes. Is that like a is that a recipe that I didn't see? Probably. Let me just take a real quick look, because I was wondering how that stuff was made. I mean, I'm reading really fast, so I could have very well read right over it, but I don't see it here. Did I not pick up? Ah, there we go. There's actually more stuff I missed. More missives, profession equipment, mystery, contracts. Let's go back up to the top. Cosmic ink, that one's new. I haven't seen that one. Cosmic ink, that's where that one comes from. I don't see any of that Dark Moon stuff, though. Vantis Rune, Vault of the Incarnates, so there's your Vantis Runes. Yeah, I think Inscription really does have quite a lot going for it. There's a lot of you're gonna need a lot of specialization points for Inscription. There's a lot of things that look worth. I don't see anything about those boxes though, so I don't know what I'm missing. Let me take a look for a minute. Well, I am apparently blind. So there it is. After you get into archiving, you can go ahead and put a point into the Rune Mysteries, and you can see that once you unlock this, learn to craft a bundle of cards. So as we would apply one, now we can craft the bundle of cards. I knew it had to be something dumb I wasn't paying attention to. Now, the bundle of cards, I've already seen some stuff about that. They take 3 of each of these awakened ones, which is pretty high cost. Like, that's going to make this bundle. I'm also aware that when you open these, you get, I don't even know how many cards. I think you get a bunch of cards, and I think like pretty much all the cards you get are like super easy to get, except for I think Ace, where it's like basically you have a very small % chance to get a Ace, and that's where like all the money is tied up in, from what I remember looking at these. So I do believe they're going to be quite expensive to craft, which also means that even if they're not even that good, they're just going to be quite expensive if you want to buy one, like really expensive. I don't know how much, but it's going to be expensive. So let's go back over here. So what does this give? This gives us more skill. Pretty understanding behind the Dark Moon cards gaining plus skill in this spec. So what did the Dark Moon deck, where'd that go? The reason why this matters so much for me, and actually no. Like, why does this need skill? Because resourcefulness is one thing which would be really nice for this. A multi-craft would be insane. But you don't need skill for the bundle? It doesn't do anything for the bundle. The bundle is just the bundle and you open it and get cards. Skill's not required or necessary, from my understanding. So, anyway. Let's go back. Let's take a look. So, plus skill in this specialization. Plus skill when crafting Darkmoon deck boxes. That's the, okay, can anybody out there explain this to me? What does skill do for the Darkmoon deck boxes? There's been multiple craft, not just this, but in other professions too. But to me, this doesn't have a stars. This is just craft it and get it. Let me go ahead and craft one real quick. So I need order, earth, and fire. Order, earth, and fire. Let's do that real quick. Maybe quick. How many do I need? I don't know. 3. Earth. Order. And fire, I think I said.
Glad I could help.
Okay. I'm just gonna do 1. Let's just craft 1 and open it so you can see. Da-da-da. Craft it. You see? Boom. You made it. It's not a different star quality. It's just crafting it. You open it. Oh, look. I got 2 cards. Yeah, I got 2 cards. 3 of Earth and a 6 of Frost. Is what it is, right? So let's go back into here. So I don't understand what skill is going to do for you there. At all. Unless there's somehow skill involved in putting together the deck. Which I doubt. Like, that's not... I think you just use it in your bag, right? It's not like an actual... it's not an actual recipe, right? Like, that might require skill. Either way. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So, you have learn to harness the burning components of certain Darkmoon cards and craft a more powerful version of your Darkmoon deck, gaining plus skill point in this spec. Learn to craft Darkmoon deck box Inferno. Interesting. Man, this is going to be a long video because I'm interested in what this stuff is a lot. Okay. So here's Darkmoon deck Inferno. Darkmoon deck Inferno requires... Okay, there we go. This is what it is. Darkmoon deck Inferno requires the initial deck, which is a 372. Here it is. This is what it does. Doesn't matter. That's not why I'm really looking at it. Not just this initial deck take ingenuity, takes chaos, takes bunches, like lots of money, really. This is a lot of value here. But then you can craft it from a 372 up to Yeah, up to a 382. It's weird, because it's called Dark Moon Deck Box Inferno. But to me, like, even the 372 is still a trinket, and it's just called Dark Moon Deck Inferno. Interesting. Wonder why that is. This seems weird. But this one that you craft, this one can be crafted into Tier 1 or Tier 2 or Tier 3, which would then also increase its item level. So that is where that is important. So now we know, right? Increased chance to find Dark Moon deck cards of fire. So yeah, so if there's a specific one that you want to get, you can focus on that one, so you're really good at crafting that one, and increase your chances of finding those cards when you open this up. So you're going to gain skill and stuff like from here, but really that skill is not important until you're actually crafting the full-blown better version. That's how I understand it. So this is just a matter of picking the deck that's good for you, or that you think is going to sell well, or whatever. You're going to want to do that, right? You're going to want to do that. Shared knowledge. Improve in unraveling the lore stored in Dark Moon and Dragon Isles, and the ability to share that knowledge. Gain +1 resourcefulness per point in specialization. So this one here, crafting shared knowledge crafts. So shared knowledge crafts, I think, it's these ones, right? The profession treaties. Is this a shared knowledge craft? It doesn't specify anywhere else. That's my assumption. I could be wrong. Getting some resourcefulness and oh yeah, then you have missives specifically and treaties specifically. So if you want to focus on those, that's where you want to go. Scale sigils, and that's where you're going to have the different sigil specifically, that if you want to be able to craft, that's the direction you're going to go. And then we have Runebinding, the last section. Improve at the art of inscription and utilize various reagents, gaining plus skill per skill point in this specialization. And learn to use optional reagents to upgrade item level on staffs and codexes. So this is probably going to be the forgotten one. Hey, unless you're that one guy on your server that wants to make absolutely kick-ass staffs, then there you go, right? You can be that guy. Which, honestly, it's like, oh man, so many other people are going to go for the others. That's the exact reason to go for something like this. Because other people are not. Which means you're going to make more money, because you're going to have less competition. So anybody who does want that nice staff made, you're going to be the guy or gal, right? So that's the wood carving. This is the runic. So we have codexes, Vantis runes, and fauna runes. What the hell is a fauna rune? I don't even know, but I don't care about runes, so I'm not too worried about it. If you care about runes, then there you go. There's your Vantis runes right there. And this one's profession tools. Gross. I'd rather make staffs. So there you have it. That is a walkthrough of the different specializations and kind of what they do and initial thoughts. And now I'm going to take a moment and break down, I think, good options to start with, or even my potential option to start with. So now that I have a quick overview of the different things that you can craft, the different things that you can make, as well as, you know, the different specializations and the directions you can go early, because again, you're not going to have all of these spec points early. You're just, like the Dragon Isles Inscription knowledge, you're just not going to have all of them. Like, you're going to have to very much be very specific on what you want to craft and push that specific thing hard. It's going to open the door to having multiple of the same professions, so you can push something else hard. Consider, what if you have a scribe who pushes hard for a specific deck, right? And then you have another scribe that pushes hard for, where is it? They had to have been back here. But to specifically make inks, or specifically, you know, do that kind of thing. So one that can break down and mill better and make better inks, and then one who's better at making specific decks. Let's go back and take a look at that deck even. Like that one takes Cosmic Inks primarily, and Cosmic Inks takes, you know, a few of the other inks, as well as an Awakened Frost, and then you have the Ruined Wraithmark. So I mean, who knows how much that would really save, but regardless, if you want to, you know, push your profits to the max, you're gonna need to do stuff like that to create some of these things easier. I honestly think going a route for like multi-craft or whatnot would be better in general for that. But I think there's also just going to be a very limited amount of multi-craft in the game, I think, and it's going to be very luck, low roll based to multi-craft, but it's going to be very powerful. But anyway, back to options. So here is a generic skill, I believe, in basically everything, right? Here's your generic skill. Honestly, skills are just going to be pretty big for most things on Inscription, unless, well, actually no, I'm wrong, because even the contracts and stuff, like those need it, the treaties do not. So I guess if you wanted to focus on these, you're not going to need skill. You're going to want resourcefulness, you're going to want multi-craft, and that's about it to save on what you spend. But most everything else, and I guess if you want to focus on specifically making stuff like the stuff for the proto, or the dragon riding and stuff, the cosmetics, then you're not going to need you're not going to need the skill. You're just going to want resourcefulness and multi-craft. But basically everything else, you're going to want high skill so you can make better quality. So that is a super, you're not going to go wrong by going there. Here you're going to go if you want to focus on, you know, milling more and creating inks. So going either one of those directions, especially early, like unlocking the rune specialization, getting yourself up to 10, so that you can then, you know, be like, okay, now I just flat out, I want to mill more. I want to mill more immediately. I want to have a higher chance of just getting, you know, more bang for my buck, going that route, and then probably even, I guess you need 20 first. Let's do that. And then going back, focusing this direction, saying, okay, now I want to craft inks. So maybe your first 60 points or something, or 50 points, probably. Looking something like this, where you're focused primarily on multi-crafting, making more, milling more, having higher skill in crafting inks, having chance for inspiration and multi-craft, and just focusing on that portion of it. That is a super duper viable option. And then if you want to go broke, I personally do not feel this is a viable option unless you have a lot of gold, multiple millions, probably minimum, or maybe about 2 million or something minimum lying around. You can focus on a specific deck, and you can be the one who's going to craft Darkmoon decks. I say that because unless things change, rolling and getting an ace is very, very rare, and everything else isn't, so everything else is practically garbage. But the aces are very, very hard to come by, and you're going to spend a lot of gold making a deck. I really think in order to make this bundle of cards, having 3 of each of these awakens just to get 2 cards, you know, also with having a low chance of getting that ace, it's going to be a lot of money. You're going to have to sink a lot of money into it, which is also, it is also going to make the price of the deck higher, because you're going to have to cover costs, and anybody who's selling things low are are just going to be dumb. Like, the amount of money that you're going to have to put in here is going to be huge. This kind of stuff is going to be insane for multi-craft and resourcefulness, especially with how much these cost. That's going to be huge if you want to be making these cards. So that is a route you can go. And it just kind of means that, like, there's different stats you want to focus on. And that's kind of what I would really want. I would want to save as much money as possible, just given how expensive that's going to be. But you absolutely can focus on one of the decks and push that. I want to warn you that I think that those decks are going to be absurdly expensive given what it takes to make them. So you better have money to play with. It's that whole you got to have money to make money, or you got to use money to make money, or however you want to look at it. You're going to need money to be able to do this. I would not do that early if you don't have a lot of money. So I also want to say that, like, back in BFA, you know, I made millions early in BFA because I focused and pushed making decks ASAP, and I made huge money off of it. It definitely is one of my favorite ways at the start of an expansion to make money. I just think it's going to be absurdly more expensive to do it this time around, because you're not just milling to get the crap that you need. You're going to be needing those, you know, awakened fires and awakened whatever. Like, there's so much other stuff that's outside of your control. And the prices and those things are used by so many other things that it's going to be absurdly expensive to craft Dark Moon decks. So they better make them pretty OP, because otherwise it's just a giant waste. So that's my only worry about that, is just how expensive they are. Outside of that, you can go ahead and focus on, you know, whether it's sigils or, like, specifically, I think pushing to go, like, making contracts or pushing to make the treaties, because these, again, regardless, these are going to be used from week 1 of the expansion forever, and just on and on and on, because people are going to be able to need the treaties so that they can upgrade and they can get their skills higher for their professions. So even the other gold goblins and stuff like that are going to have to put in orders for you know, like myself. You know, I'm going to have to put in an order on my blacksmith so I can get this, so I can increase my skill there, because I'm not going to be able to just do it myself. I'm going to need a scribe to make that for me. So I think that is a very safe and very good option, is to go this direction, just to have the resourcefulness and just to be able to make those a little bit easier. Contracts and missives I also think are pretty good. And then I don't think I would touch rune carving, or rune binding, excuse me, unless you just are being like, hey, I'm going to be different. All these other people are going to be going for Dark Moon decks. All these other people are going to go for milling and stuff like that. There's going to be way less competition on going staffs. And as I've always said, going server-specific goods is going to be the way to go in terms of long-term gold, right? Things that are stackable are going to fall in price, because there's going to be, you know, tons of people doing it. Granted, early on, the supply is not going to match the demand, you know, and that's why the prices are going to be high early. But that's not going to last as long as it normally does, I don't think. And the one thing is, like, if you have a good server for it, being that guy on your server, or one of a few instead of one of many, because you're dealing with all servers that can make, you know, make a nice staff or something like that and just have less competition. Honestly, that's a pretty good choice. Maybe you're not going to sell quite as many or sell quite as often or whatever the case may be, but I think that's setting yourself up to have good profits. And in my book, that's kind of what matters, right? I just want to make gold, so that's my focus. So I don't think going like staff route or something is bad per se at all. So long story short, you have options. You absolutely have options as Inscription. Again, if you're a big spender, go for a Dark Moon deck. If you don't have the gold, I would focus on something else. I think the treaties are super safe. The contracts are super safe. I think if you want to have less competition and make something specifically for your server, I honestly think going the staff route, as long as like item levels and stuff match and blah blah blah, like, you know, are the staffs good, you know, on the higher end, like as long as they are, then absolutely going the staff route is good. And a very generic route, I think, is to go the I just want to mill better, I just want to make inks better. That is okay too. But again, this expansion is just going to be about picking the thing you want to do. I don't think there's a ton of terrible options, right? Whether or not you push for resourcefulness or inspiration, it really depends on what you're trying to craft, right? Not everything needs inspiration. Inspiration's also only good in early. Resourcefulness is kind of weak in general, but at the end game, it's the only thing that's really going to be great, you know, because you don't need inspiration if you're already crafting a T3, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things to consider here. Pick the route that's right for you. I will either go a very generic route for milling and for making inks. I really want to go cards, but I honestly feel like it's going to be super expensive. And it's not like I won't have the gold to potentially get into that market. I'm scared of this market right now. I'll probably look back on that and regret it and be like, holy crap, I would have made a bunch of money. But, I mean, I guess it is just WoW gold, right? Not a big deal. But, I'm iffy on that. So, maybe I go staffs, but I actually think I'm going to go for more like the treaties or contracts or missives. I think might be my play, because I think these are super safe options. So with that, we are done. I talked way too much. Sorry about that. I did not realize just how much Inscription had going for it. I was hoping it was going to be quick. It was not. So hopefully you got something out of this. I learned that Inscription has a lot of what I think are going to be viable options, and it's just a matter of picking the one that's right for you, right? I don't think it's maybe going to be that great as like a side profession, I guess. But I do think there's a lot of gold to be made with Inscription this time around. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the content. Let me know. Let me know down below what you want to see, what I can do better, how I can better help you. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.